You were saying there's 76 people in Cross Lake?
76. And it's growing. It's growing.
So, historically, my understanding is there was a time when the populations weren't as concentrated in towns. Lifestyle. So, can you tell me more about how, in the case of Cross Lake, how people were specifically in that, or ended up in that spot altogether? But before the dams, there was already starting to be a concentration.
Well, before our people were always there. Back we inherited this land.
As a permanent settlement?
Yeah, it was always there. Like, our people always moved into a different, there was no boundaries before. Where they gathered, hunted, and that's where they went. And some stayed there and, started to settle. And when the Treaty 5 came in and, they signed the agreement in 1876, that's when they told these people just to stay in that. We were oppressed for a long time.
A lot of the actual settlements that were created were directly connected to Hudson Bay Company because they went out through the north. So again, corporate interest came in and they were working for Hudson Bay. They were the ones moving the goods, transporting and stuff like that. And when Hudson Bay pulled out, they were just, so that now they're sort of settled here and giving up some of the other stuff. But you still had people who were mobile as it is.
Tell me more about what happened after Treaty 5 was signed, because I understand Cross Lake's pretty far north. It's a lot different from southern Manitoba, where thousands and thousands of settlers moved in and turned the land into agricultural land. It wasn't like that at all where you were. So tell me more about what she was saying about what the relationship was after that.
Our ancestors, our elders, they lived the life. They had rid of everything, and we didn't need money to survive. We survived. We still survive without money. We can survive. I don't know about you if you can survive if you turn this power off here.
No.
How are you going to survive?
Tell me more about what happened after 1870.
In 1875, when they signed the Treaty 5, the Pastanum signed Treaty 5, and they started making reserves. Norrie House, all these little reserve areas, and that's where we were. This is the only place you can live, and they traded.
How was that enforceable though? How did Canada enforce that relationship when it was such a big, vast land?
How did they enforce
all their kids?
Yes,
and put them at school.
Exactly.
That's when it started.
Fur trade and alcohol was always coming into play, and signing things without even knowing what was happening to them, and they didn't know how to read. And they had their lives, but it was destroyed. These are the things that we have to be aware.
Yeah, I'm trying to learn more about that.
Yes.
So the reserves you're saying the reserves were established right away in 1875.
Yes, they started to fur trade and all that. That's
did
how
that
they
mean
settled.
people were restricted to practice their traditional life only within the reserve territory?
Yes.
When there was vast amounts of land.
Yes.
So how did they keep people from practicing their traditional life on Crown land outside the reserves? Was there a presence of the RCMP must have arrived at a certain point?
Oh, yes.
The Indian man had huge powers. Had huge powers, and each one had one.
They had their own. They had their own. They had their own culture. They had their own.
I'm just curious how they exercised that power. Relative
coffee.
They had their own ceremonies.
Did you want some tea?
Their own customary laws.
There's some over here. I could put it on the fire. It'll warm up a little bit.
They helped each other, and
Once the Hudson Bay, once Hudson pulled out,
When was that?
would have been shortly after those treaties were signed. 'Cause I think they when did they stop the fur trade going north there?
Oh, nearly 90s, 80s. That's when they started to change everything.
But they would
Nowadays,
they would
you need
install
a
an
permit to
Indian,
go hunting.
Well, yeah, that's that.
That was taken away too.
Like I'm from southern Manitoba, and initially, like even when the settlers were here, we were talking about the 1870s and the 1890s when new people were coming.
Well, they were a lot more numerous though. Like,
They were a lot more numerous, but it, Cree people spoke Ukrainian, and Russian people spoke Ojibwe. They traded with each other, and there was enough space that some of those traditions did continue. But the biggest thing that really brought a lot of that shut all of that down in the lifestyle was when they came and took the kids, because the kids were physically removed and brought south, and they'd send the RCMP up into the north and take
but
the
what
kids.
year did that kind of thing not start happening until the 1940s or 50s or 60s, or was
that
there
happened.
mass displacement of children away from their parents long before that?
Yeah, that happened. You must have heard that from somewhere.
Well, I'm trying to figure out the details.
Yeah.
The timing.
They need a lot of those types of details down here, the history and how things have evolved. Because I mean, a lot of those things were not. We're trying to you're trying to figure out how the hell did all of this happen.
Well,
because
it's more obvious to me in the South when there was a large colonial population and I can see how you could have an RCMP presence to be part of that too. But the North is so much more vast and bigger, and the numbers of people from Canadian colonial society compared to Indigenous people, the ratio must have been a lot different.
Yeah.
And so the nature of colonization of the North must have, I imagine, was a lot different than the colonization of the South. And so I'm just trying to understand that difference.
And there were people who did try to maintain it, because they go to the hunting grounds, because most of them, the Dene, you move to different areas for different things. They did maintain it for a while. There was a lot of imposition that came in with when they brought the Indian men in, and they really stopped them from making their own decisions. In Quebec, what they physically did is they shot the dogs. The Quebec government came in, and that's you think of the same thing of there's it's just Indigenous people up in the north. They shot their dogs as a public health issue. But without the dogs, they couldn't go anywhere.
Right. So that's the kind of detail I'm going. So I'm wondering if there's a similar thing that happened in Cross Lake.
Yeah,
where a catastrophic event like that,
we lived it. We survived it. We're still surviving it. I'm the next generation of the survivor of residential school. My mom was taken away from her parents, and was told that we'll go educate you, or we'll go. And they didn't educate them. They punished them. They tried to kill them. That's what we call genocide.
How's it going, guys?
And we don't want that. We're peaceful people. We've always been peaceful people. When we signed the agreement that we allowed the other people to come and live with us, and now what's happening now? We kill each other. We all kill each other. Who has the power?
I'm reasonably familiar with the residential school aspect.
Yeah.
I was just hoping you could tell me more about what happened before that, between the time when the treaties were signed and between the time when the residential school.
Well, there was a lot of fur trade before then. There was a lot of fur trade, and a lot of colonized friends all over came over and drew the maps and used our people as a tourist because they knew the land.
You continued. You were able to continue a lot of the traditional lifestyle
Yes.
and living
Yeah.
up into those
All
points.
over.
But
Our people are all over indigenous and they know the land. You know.
it wasn't something that went banging. It was,
No.
it was a very gradual transition, and when the kids were taken, it caused such a depression for their parents. You know, and they were kept, you know, like I said, again, not overnight. It was over and over again. No, you have to stay here. You have to, you know, the only place to buy anything or to trade anything is in one location. It's you know, it's like any rural person right now has to come to the city or to a town to buy their goods, to buy the other things that they need. So.
Do you guys mind if I take a snapshot?
Go ahead.
You making sense to you?
Yeah. You can check us out on Wikipedia, Pimicikamak, Wikipedia.
It's good art.
Yes, it's good art. There's some stories there about the hydro development destruction, the Green Rivers there, and all those other. The Santa Claus will be coming.
Yeah, Santa Claus
Hydro
parade.
will be coming. It's just saying, Manitoba Hydro and Cross Lake Hydro, like, you know, Manitoba Hydro. And I'm going to be speaking at the same time. I said that who has the power, I'm saying. But anyways, I want to take the time to thank you for inviting me and listening to us of our story of our struggle with the hydro development and whatever. And what you're doing here is really, it's really good to see you're occupying this place here and
Reoccupying it.
reoccupying it.
Yeah, and
It is occupying.
I don't know if anyone
Yes.
told you, but the first demand that the people agreed on was the reversal of colonization.
It's posted on their Occupy Winnipeg site if they're indigenous. Yeah. There's a lot of history we got. I'm in the same boat
There's
you
a
are. I
lot,
mean,
yeah.
you know, to actually see how it happened. Like I said, for me,
Yes.
I grew up next to a reserve, and some of you guys have met Ashhawk.
I'm not sure.
He lit the fire here. He's been around a few times, but I grew up playing with his uncle, and I didn't understand what the hell was going on, because it was, you know, you shouldn't do that because he's different. You know, it's like, you know, no, he's not different. You're treating him different. and those things, and it's not just how it happened. It's also how it affects how we've been taught to think about a lot of these issues as well too. Because apartheid worked both ways. A lot. I hope you know that the South African government based apartheid on our reservations. The Indian man, they weren't allowed to leave without permission. If they were not back on the reserve by the time they were supposed to be, the curfew, they were not allowed. They lost their place on the reserve. They lost their
Someone was
rights.
kept on reserve by there was a federal government agent always on reserve.
Yes. Or if they came and went, because some of them with the North would have. You know, the first elder spoke about that. Is, you know, they'd make decision when the guy was gone.
Yeah.
But you know, you come back and you change them all.
Oh yeah.
So you know, it's and like I said, it took time for all of those little things to sort of happen.
Well, I can kind of see how one thing leads to another. Like once you convince people to assemble in one place, even if they're going out for traditional lifestyle, but if you get them to all come back to one place, then you can have an agent in that one place. And then once you have an agent in one place, you have the means to take all the children away. Once you can take all the children all away, then you can avoid resistance when dams get built.